Alright, welcome to Operation End Times. I'm your Jedi warrior for Jesus, Ben Hellisted. Today, I'm going to talk about a new topic. I'm calling it the Venus Conspiracy. And, the more I've been researching this, it just seems to get bigger and more entangled. But I just thought, man, I gotta just get something out there, start sharing what I'm looking at. Anyway, the last couple of weeks I've been studying and researching a lot of like astrotheology type stuff, and it's all about like the zodiac and the progression of the ages and solar alignments, planets, and just a lot of crazy stuff is happening in 2012. We just had a conjunction of Venus and Jupiter in the constellation of Aries. We've got the spring equinox coming up on 3/22. There seems to be a direct correlation between the extreme weather, earthquakes, and volcanoes on Earth and the activity that's happening with our sun and the planetary alignments. And, I don't really, myself, I've never really been a huge, hardcore believer in like the horoscope aspects of astrology, like reading a daily horoscope, but I've been researching, birth signs, and, there definitely seems to be a connection between the heavens, the planets, and events on Earth, if not for two reasons. One, there could be some kind of emotional, mental effect it has on us humans when planets line up, because they have their own frequencies and they create some kind of electromagnetic connection. And the other reason would be just because there's so many of us that believe that the planets are, causing this stuff, that they actually cause stuff because we believe it, and therefore we do things based on the planets being aligned. And when you look back at it, it's like proof that the planets being aligned caused something, where it was actually the other way around, that something was caused because those things were aligned. I don't know if that makes sense, but, this whole astrotheological concept is just huge. But anyway, for some reason, the planet Venus just seems to keep, surfacing. And, recently, with this conjunction, I was talking to my friend Bert up in Reno, and man, Venus was just brighter than bright, man. We were almost thinking it looked like it had, flares or whatever you want to call it, just like, beams of light coming off of it. It was so bright. And I was telling Bert, even in like NASA, they have photos that all these solar storms and coronal mass ejections, that Venus doesn't really have a magnetic shield, so it's been just like ripping through Venus, causing this like trail effect, almost making Venus look like a comet, which is very interesting, because I just got done watching a video on YouTube called Symbols of an Alien Sky. And I'm going to link, the video's already linked into Operation End Times, but I'm going to link it to this particular video blog as well. But man, the video is just incredible, because it talks about how the ancient skies may have been totally different, where planets were a lot closer. Now, I don't know if I believe that or not, but, I think that there's a lot of evidence that our solar system has had, disturbances. Like there's ancient tales of an intruder. And that's where we get these stories of Planet X or Nibiru being a 10th planet, or possibly a dwarf star. Now, in the video, Alien Symbols of an Alien Sky, the video talks about how ancient man, that there was this alignment, and it was of Mars, Venus, and Saturn. And it created this visual phenomenon in the sky of either a second sun, or it was the sun. Maybe the sun was in the alignment. I'm not the expert on these things. But the video provides a lot of evidence that that's what ancient man was looking at. And therefore, if you look at all the, societies around the earth, the symbology is the same of a wheel in the sky. And, they all seem to represent the same planetary alignments as well. And that's the other interesting thing that comes out in the video, is that when you look at the earth, throughout all civilizations, there's this core of similarity that kind of makes you look at it and say, man, there's a truth to this. Like, why is it all societies have a zodiac? Why is it all societies, have a dragon? And, if they didn't exist, how could it be that everybody seems to, somehow know of the dragon? All societies kind of have a concept of a ladder to the heavens, or a gate to the heavens. And, almost all ancient societies were building monuments that were aligned with the heavens, and the stars. Why were all these ancient societies building these huge monoliths like the pyramids and the both in Egypt and in, Mexico? But anyway, the video, kind of touches on all of this. The one thing I would say is, as I was watching the video kept saying that Mars was at the front of this alignment, and that Earth had a different rotational pole, and sometimes we look at the universe, the stars and the planets, and it's like, you could view it as a big clock, like a Swiss watch, and therefore everything's precision and it has been clicking for thousands and, if not millions of years. And that we're getting to the end of a progression, of 25,000 years. So there's a lot of like alarm clocks, whether it's Stonehenge or the pyramids, where they seem to be pinpointing to a point in time, being the year 2012, the time that we're living in. But the video, kind of talks about how ancient man, was looking at all this incredible stuff in the sky. And I'm thinking, man, could that be possibly what's happening in 2012? And the date that seems to keep popping out is 6/6/2012, when Venus makes its transit across the sun. And another thing that's amazing is we got all sorts of planets that are going into retrograde. Mars, Mercury, Venus, and Saturn. And guess what? They go into retrograde all the time anyway, but they're in retrograde. And Venus, when it crosses the sun, is going to be in retrograde. But Venus, basically, if you look at the symbology of it, Venus is like the crown, it's the wheel, it's the mad goddess. All these things I think could come into play as far as 2012. I kind of made these diagrams, like will we be seeing some kind of phenomenon in the sky, And, I'm a real big supporter of the electromagnetic concept, because there's been all sorts of articles I've been reading lately where they say that's really what, makes the universe tick, is electricity and magnetism. And, having these solar or galactic bolts of lightning, I think it could happen. And who knows what kind of change it might bring. The other thing is, in the video, he kind of always had Mars, which, Mars would have had to have been closer to the sun, between us and the sun, to be in that alignment, whereas we all know Mars is on the other side of us. But I was thinking, man, what if the red object at the center of that alignment was like Nibiru, Planet X, or a red dwarf? And the way I would say to visualize it is like, the universe and the planets, it might be like a clock, but it also might be like a huge, like a bank vault, an electromagnetic bank vault. If you ever watched any of these movies of bank heists, when they try and rob the bank, they can't get into the vault till an exact time, because once that time hits, the vault, the locks spin and click, and all of a sudden the safe opens, whether it's the people that should be going into the safe or somebody else, trying to rob the safe. But, at that exact moment in time, all of a sudden the safe opens, the portal opens, the gate to the heavens opens. So, could that be what's happening? Could there be an intruder? Or, there's a lot of articles out there about us living in a binary system where our sun has a twin, whether it's Sirius or some red dwarf. And of course, the old as above, so below. When we read the zodiac, there's Gemini, the twins. And, Venus is retrograding and crossing the sun in Gemini. And then another big date coming up is July 7th, 7/7/12, that Venus goes into Taurus. And it's going to, on 7/7, it's going to be on the eye of Taurus, the red star, Aldebaran, which is known as the follower. What does it all mean? I don't know, but man, there's all this incredible stuff that's happening. And of course, there's all the incredible alignments that are going to happen in the fall and that are going to happen in December, 12/3, 12/12, 12/21. But man, way before we get to December and the end of the Mayan calendar, we got the June, July, and the Venus retrograde crossing of the sun approaching on 6/6/12. Venus represents the dragon, and if you watch the video, once again, symbols of an alien sky, he says that Venus could look like a comet in the sky. And for some reason, when I was watching that video, it was easy for me to visualize it in the Bible, like talking about the four horsemen. The white rider is Venus with the crown, the red rider is Mars with the sword, or Nibiru, or the red dwarf with the sword, because that's what you're visually seeing, We'll have to see. Only time will tell. I was reading, some astro-theological websites. I'm going to try and link all this stuff in so you can read it for yourself. But, the Venus crossing is saying it's going to bring about intuitive awareness, the divine feminine, the crossing, I guess, is in Scorpio and Ophiuchus. What does it all mean? Hey, we're going to find out. And maybe it's just a coincidence, but my other YouTube page, Tribulation 515 2011, everybody says, why'd you pick that date? Well, it was just random. A little voice inside of me said, start the page. But on the 1-year anniversary of 5/15/2011, on 5/15/2012, that's when Venus starts the retrograde and heads back towards the crossing of the sun. Is that just a coincidence, or was that why I was predestined to start that YouTube page on 5/15? I don't know. But man, the numbers are adding up, And then, I'll put a link. There's this page which talks about Venus in a lot of details, where it's talking about that Venus and the Earth form some kind of pentagram formation as they go orbit the sun. And it's a five cycle pentagram that takes 8 years, and Venus revolves 12 times during that cycle. And it forms this harmonic balance with Earth, in ratios of 3:2 and 5:8, all of it super interesting stuff. And it's, that's part of maybe a rise in human consciousness, some kind of divine intervention happening. Could it be happening this summer? And once again, I just thought about, Revelations, like Revelations 19, when it talks about the second coming of Christ. Christ was called Venus, the morning star, and it describes the second coming where it talks about his eyes of fire, that he's wearing a crown, that he has a sword. All of that sounds like, in the video, Venus, And then what if there's some other object in that alignment that all of a sudden we're getting this visual phenomenon? Once again, it's all something we're going to have to witness. We're living in amazing times. But I think Venus, Venus was in the sign on 9/30/2011, when we were all saying it was Revelations 12. Venus was in the womb with Saturn. Crazy stuff. And of course, we've made the link where the Great Pyramids of Giza points to some kind of alignment on December 3rd. All right. Hey, this is Ben Helsted, your Jedi Warrior for Jesus. Just trying to share some knowledge. But it's the Venus conspiracy, man. It's driving whatever's going on. 2012. All right. Hey, everybody out there, keep the faith. Think positive. God bless everybody. This is Operation End Times.